All right, so it is the 18th of May 2020, around 3:30 p.m. and I'm in Orville, California, and I wanted to make another drama blog. Actually, I didn't really want to, but I feel like I had to. I'm not really sure uh, where I want to go with this, but I figure it's the quickest way to where I want to get to. And then also, I was thinking about it. I was like, nobody wants to talk about their issues online. I guess some people do, but I don't. But this is actually further than it's not a normal situation, and considering the people around me, being in California, being in the United States, being during the time that we're in, this is probably the best way. Don't know if it's gonna reach the people. Mostly people are ignoring the reality. I guess people want me to. People are emotionally invested in what I'm speaking on, and for different reasons. Some people want to know what's going on with my situation because they're directly involved. But there's a lot of people that are here just for the story, which is the problem. Is that some of the people, there's going to be a lot of people that not going to want to hear what I have to say. So, a lot of people, it's kind of dangerous, honestly, like to speak on things that people don't want to talk about, that have nothing really to do with me, honestly. I feel like I've been a scapegoat for some people, and a catalyst for agendas, and it doesn't make any sense. Like in 2014, one of my last murals I did in Chico was in this dude's business, this black guy. It was like a soul food place. I don't even know if the guys were really, if they were local or not local, or if they were like, a lot of the people that I'm around or that hovering around me are into the marijuana business, and I'm not. I've never been, not interested in it, and because of the reasons that are, first of all, how when I grew up, seeing, coming from the community I come from, this community as well, it's like drug dealing is actually, when marijuana was illegal. Man, I think this one's getting messed up. So, I was never into the business, but when I played music and stuff like that, a lot of my friends and people's associates were, cultivating that idea, and so the thing with the Mexicans and stuff is that a lot of the weed came from Mexico, and now they're creating it here. So there's like a weird thing going on. So being a Mexican in California, Mexican American, second generation. So my parents were born here, so I don't have fear of being deported or nothing. But the climate and atmosphere revolving around Mexico and American trade and the situations that are going on, it involves me somehow, just by association. So like I said, the marijuana thing has nothing to do with any interest that I have, but it's dangerous to me because if people think that I have anything to do with it, or and at this time it's not an issue, but from the 2010s, 2007s, and to 2015, I guess, these people, it was a big deal, and I guess it still is a big deal. I mean, I don't know who the growers are, or what's going on with the government, California government, but what I've came to find out is, I think about stuff, and I think about, I've been listening to Nietzsche, even though people, he's got a bad name or whatever. I don't really know his history. I know a little bit about him. I watched a little documentary on him. Basically, the last few years, I've been cultivating information on the past and thinkers, just thinkers in general, and the human experience. And I've been put through the mill by all these people, and a lot of different people grouped up, and they have their groups, and I feel I've been part of, in the middle of, been used as some kind of, I don't know, what I mean? I don't know what I've been pretty passive through my life, but so I guess some people felt like they can take advantage of that and use my name and my situation to their advantage somehow. And from the white people in this town to and even goes to Stanford. I don't know how this thing got further and further. And I guess Hollywood somehow is involved. So the reason I even think any of this stuff happened has to do with, like I said, the Mexican and the American issues. I guess the government wanted to crack down on some of that stuff, so I guess me hanging out with white people and being accessible put me as a middleman somehow to their issues and their prejudices and their their agendas. So I don't like it, and this is the only way I could feel that people can get the information that I'm actually giving. And that's the problem, is that with social media, people have been using social media to slander my name, slander my and this has been going on since I was a kid, actually. So this is some stuff that's been going on since the 80s, with the drug dealing, and like, so and the prejudices and racism and keeping people down. So what I've done in my life is tried to be the greatest artist that I could be in music and in art and comic book art forms and painting, and I do poetry and stuff. So, and one of the ingredients in my art, major ingredient in my art, has been promoting Chicano culture. Not really the Chicano culture of the lowriders, which was the generation before me, but the just the Mexican American experience of being a descendant of immigrants and a child of the lowrider Chicano movement, and being proud of my culture and wanting to show the world through my art that it's a beautiful culture, that it's a special ingredient in the California you know, in the California culture. And during that time, you know, I ran into a lot of prejudices. So I spoke on, when I did art shows, I spoke on it. You know, like especially living in Butte County, it was a very cowboy town. It was they were very into their miners, like miner history, and the gold mining and what they were used to when I got here at age 13 was more of the immigrants, you know, first generation Mexican Americans. So I got a lot of you know, people, my whole life people didn't know where to put me as far as grouping me, if I was Mexican or Chicano. You know, everybody always, the white folks always questioned kind of like if I was in a gang or not, and I wasn't, you know. But this stems, now that I'm older, I realize this stems from my parents' life and their families and all my family's life and the area I'm from. So it's all Northern California. So I didn't personally deal with any of the gang stuff or any of the affiliation. You know, I was proud of being Chicano, but I didn't think in blue and red and think about Sureños or Norteños. And as I grew up, you know, we moved over here, so I didn't personally have to deal with being approached by anybody or having to group up with anybody with the Chicano, with the Mexican American problems. And so I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but growing up, actually, till I was 13, we actually did have things. So I had you know, toys and nice clothes, and had opportunities that some of my cousins didn't have, as far as economically. So, you know, I got to play music, and so we got to nurture our artistic side. But the problem was being different in this town that was used to only white culture, and not knowing a lot of Mexican Americans that are Mexicans that spoke English, or just, you know, that were second generation. So moving here was a culture shock to me, and I think for the people around me. And I guess it was some Native American. There's a Native American group, and the white people were more used to them. But I think during the time, and history shows this, you know, I don't know how well documented it is, but you know, they're pretty racist towards the Native Americans, you know. And the black community there wasn't a lot of African American community here. There was, but they were segregated in the poor community called Southside. So things have changed. You know, I went on with life and went to Chico and went to art school in SF, and, you know, kind of moved around during my 20s, but mostly went to Butte College and was a student, you know, was a art student and a student in general, you know, going to junior college. So my life that's what my life consisted around. But during the problems of California, and, you know, these issues with the growers becoming more prevalent, and I guess now that I think about it, or now that I realize the problems that were happening with, I guess, the cartels or whatever, because when I was younger, like, it was, most of the marijuana came from them down there, and I think the American government had problems with those guys. You know, it's like all the other third world countries, like, they feed the country they get what they want, and then the militia or whatever gets too powerful, and then like and then they have problems, so they have to take them down. So that's, I think, what happened with the Mexican folks, and there was a drug war. So I think the marijuana thing, I'm not sure exactly where that comes in, but some of my art was used as catalyst for agendas on the American politics side, I guess. I don't know how, but somehow, you know, we were under surveillance or under watch through the community people, but I guess it got, somehow Hollywood got involved, and good or bad, you know. And it's funny because I remember, like, one of my old teachers was like, you should move to Hollywood, you know, like, when I was going to Butte, and I was just like, what? You know, that was in my plans, but I had a son at the time, and I was going to school, and, you know, that wasn't in my near plans. But now that I think about it, through finding out a lot of the stuff that personally I'm involved in, which is a big deal to me because, you know, it actually, I had enemies that I didn't know about, and people that disliked me, or accusations that I didn't know about, and it's weird, you know, when I read Freud or Jung, it's like, are these thinkers, you know, Alan Watts, and just, you know, Bible stuff even, and it's like, people were, it's like that saying, you get what you wish for, or whatever, so be careful what you wish for. And then it's also the power of the mind, the power of the thought, power of prayer, power of speaking. And so if you think negatively, you attract negative, but also there's the yin and yang of life, you know, and you know, where you get seasons of good and seasons of bad, and, you know, seasons of winners. You know, I've been talking about this on here, and that's one of the major things that I've been learning on, are trying to lean on as I try to get through this. And, you know, some people want to just brush it under the rug, but I feel it's too deep to do that. And, you know, it feels like my personal life is, my economic life, my personal life is very depends on clearing my name, you know, clearing my character. So people that actually know me, have known me in this life, know some of these accusations are totally off the wall, and are not viable. And so the bad thing is that I wish I could have dealt with these things when they happen and as they happen, so that it wouldn't be just some big old giant cluster of crap that now that I'm dealing with. And, you know, other people that have been involved in this are doing their own thing, you know, maybe they, through their own choices, have involved themselves, or not, you know, maybe they're in the same situation I'm in, but I've chosen to, this is how I do things, and it might not be the best way or the smartest way to deal with stuff, but it's taken up a lot of my years of my life, and pretty pissed off about it. So so one of the major things that is life-threatening to myself, and if it stays in this place, is that I've never worked for the police or the government or whatever, never worked for any gangs, never had associations with any of those entities. And that's a personal decision, and just who I am. You know, I don't agree with making a living off of somebody else's pain, and I don't like people making a living off of my pain, and that's the problem right now. And so these people that bought houses and cars and vacations and whatever they got going on, making movies about it as an agenda onto their own. And you know, I don't really want to attack anybody because I don't need more enemies, but I've you know, I thought about it, and the truth is a safe place, and that's where I'm gonna stay at. So just, you know, trying to be as clear as possible to some of these issues. Like I just said, you know, I'm not involved with any of that, even though I am, you know, I have seen nothing wrong with marijuana, honestly. Like, you know, people are addicted to a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's a good thing. But marijuana as a plant is not a bad thing, and you know, for it to even be illegal is I always thought was an agenda unto itself. So if it does become legal or illegal, whatever, it's not important to me. So you know, there's also, you know, always the issue of how do you cultivate it and the business around it. So you know, but understanding a little bit of that world, that is not important to me, because that's problems, you know. Just like when alcohol was illegal, you know, it's not the alcohol that is the problem, it's the money that's being made off of the alcohol, and the groups that are involved in making alcohol, or you know, selling alcohol. So to me, that's not a world that I want to be part of. But the people seem to keep pulling me towards their, you know, not in any particular reason, but like I said, using me as a catalyst for their agendas. And I'm here to say that, you know, I cared zero about their agendas in that world, and I'm making it very clear that that is how I feel, and that's where I stand. And if I change my mind, and which I most likely won't, but in 20 years, if the atmosphere changes and it's just like making a wine place, then I'm cool with that. But really, at the moment, that industry is filled by a lot of people that I'm not in tune with, because of it's still associated with it being illegal and a drug. You know, I'm not interested in selling alcohol or being a bartender, because of the people you attract. Same thing with the casinos. You know, like, nothing's wrong with casinos per se, but the people that it attracts is the problem. So being part of that is not nothing wrong with having a good time and drinking or whatever, or even doing some gambling, but that's not the atmosphere that happens when that's all you guys, that's all that's done there. So that's my talk on that, because right now I'm in the place where I'm painting. I got offered this place to paint at, and for whatever reason, you know, like the town's agendas and like this COVID-19, like there's all kinds of crazy shit happening that I have to speak on it, because it's like, dude, this is too crazy. And like I said, you know, some of the stuff like Rage Against the Machine, you know, I like Rage Against the Machine. When I listen to Rage Against the Machine, I like them. You know, the guy's a Chicano singer guy, and you know, I'm not. Some of the issues that he talks about are very real issues that we're dealing with now. Does he have solutions? Is there solutions in the speak? Is his solution is when's he's not speaking from what I listen in the lyrics. He's not speaking on just his own personal beliefs, but he's pulling from a whole group of history, of people in a history of genocide, you know, and even if, you know, I guess the Jewish people feel that their genocide is their issues during World War II and stuff like that. Issues now, they got issues now, you know, but you know, when you look at history and the groups of people that have been affected by mass death and mass killings and, you know, displacement, the Native Americans and the southern Mexican culture has been affected, and are still dealing with it, you know, and are still dealing with feeling misplaced. You know, a lot of people, the Chicano culture feels that California was Mexico, you know, and for not to be illegal here is like someone coming to your house and saying that you're not allowed in your own house. And that's kind of how Mexicans feel in California, and probably other, you know, all those southern states, and that's how Indians, Native Americans feel in America right now. So there's real stuff happening, and because I spoke on it growing up, people, as an artist, people saw me as a target and acted accordingly, you know, tried to build cases on me and send stuff my way. And this is a thing that, you know, gets to me, because when I think about it, I think about like some of the stuff that they did, you know, and how, and this is a shared reality of racism, that while you're good at whatever you're good at, the group, the majority group, whatever, for us it's the white community that has, and it have a mixed feeling, because I met a lot of white folks that have been very kind and very nurturing and wanted to see the best for me. But at the same time, half of those folks did want me to conform, to not, they didn't really relate to the Chicano side of me and my culture and my art. And so, you know, it was kind of this like, well, you can come play music with us, but you play some Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, and if you want, you can play some Santana, you know, like put it in a box. And I didn't feel as an artist that, and that's why I relate to Basquiat and his movie, and even some of the creatives, you know, I'm not just that, and I'm not just a Chicano culture guy, like that's not, I'm a human being first of all, so when you read my poetry, you're gonna read on being a human being, you know, and that's what people like. And I appreciate people that see my art and creations, and emotionally it moves you, and it's powerful enough because it's coming from my heart, you know. That's the artist that I am, is that I create from my heart. So a lot of it has blood, you know, it's bleeding. So when people put their pain and associate their pain with my work directly, you know, like, you know, people do, like, people will be like, oh, is that about me? Is that, you know, is he talking about me? And really the only people that I've ever put in my work has either been family life, you know, like dealing with being a single father, or you know, growing up in the family I was in, or girlfriends, you know, ex-girlfriends or whatever. And that's it. You know, everyone else that feels that I wrote about them or part of their anything that I've ever done, work in my art has been about them is mistaken. And you know, I think, you know, I've been they call it bullying. You know, I've been bullied and been minimalized, and it's been pretty crazy. You know, like, and this is the yin and yang of life. You know, and this is the cool thing about, like, when I look at artists or directors or create other musicians in time and thinkers, and you know, they all went through this stuff, and so I don't think there is a clear answer to how to deal with people and how to deal with stardom or fandom, because they love you and they hate you at the same time. And they, you know, and it's dangerous because you get people that are like Stephen King was like, yeah, I wrote a book, and you know, dude showed up at my house, or you know, dressed as one of the characters and was like staying outside my house, you know, and that's you know, who wants that? You know, like, you created a book. So I don't know, I'm not sure Stephen King's work so much, like, but I wouldn't want to write the stuff that he writes about, because you do attract that into your life. Alan Moore, you know, when he wrote Watchmen, he wrote about Rorschach, or you know, Rorschach was a character, and then I guess the guy was like, yeah, Rorschach or whatever, and he's like, dude, just stay away from me, because you know, because you're writing about stuff, but it doesn't mean that you want people that associate strongly with the negative in the world around you trying to feed off of your energy or whatever. And I get it, you know. I'm a fan of a lot of creators, and I'm in the comic book world, so you know, a lot of the comic book creators talk about, you know, their fans are like big old fat dudes that live in their basement, mom's basement, that smell and whatever, you know, and or you know, basically just like nerds or whatever, geeks or whatever you call them, that read comic books. And maybe that's changed in the last 20 years, 30 or 20 years since it's hit the movie scene. But at the same time, there's, I don't know, I haven't traveled the circuit, the comic book circuit, but I get it, you know, like, you're selling a product, and your audience is your audience. You don't get to choose who your audience is, I guess. But so it's a problem, you know what I mean? Like, people even create pen names, fake names, so that they can live a life and their family won't be affected by it. But we live in a social media world, so as I've, you know, and this is all stuff that was been built before I was aware of it. So what was happening, I guess, was, like I said, I was being videoed secretly, and it was on the internet, and these people were making movies of stuff, and so it hit the big time for whatever. In 2007, there was a writer's strike, and some of the art that I created, so there was, like, I think I already spoke on it, Cross, right? Cross, like, I guess that's part of the cancer thing. It's a name for cancer. So people got, somehow the government or whoever, you know, it's supposed to be some alien stuff or whatever, and is now, but the thing is, the Native Americans have always been associated with that. They've always been demonized for having magic powers and being the devil and devil stuff, like the Aztec stuff, you know, that's like, they're straight like, oh, they're worshiping the devil. And you know, I've never been part of that, and I don't know, I don't agree with that. I've never been approached by that. I never had dreams of that. Never been part of my brain or things that I've care to watch or absorb. So anything that I've created and done is not from that place. So being demonized in the way that these people around me, they're seeing themselves, you know, and that's a problem. Is people people put their thoughts and thinking into your world, and because I've been from poor communities, you know, people economically famished communities. Some of the people that have been associated in the places I grew up are, you know, deal with drugs, you know, like, and I have a real problem, a real prejudice, a real dislike for drugs. You know, like, serious. Some drugs are just like whatever. You know, if you're gonna have people want to get drunk. If you want to smoke some weed, smoke some weed. If you want to have a good time wherever you're at, that's fine. But when that place like the Eagles talk about, you know, and all those 70s people talk about it, cocaine, the guy from Eric Clapton and stuff, you know, when it takes you to the place of not a good place. And you know, what I've seen in the community in Butte County was crank. They call it crank, right? Methamphetamine. And it's just a bad thing, you know. And I have a real deep pain, anger towards that community, because I've seen it tear down people that I cared about, and I've seen strangers that have been destroyed by it as well, you know. And you know, everybody lives life, but it just, you know, it's just a very bad reality to be in. And you know, you stay up to be approached by some of these people that in this community, either if you're white supremacist or if you're racist and you're a drug addict, or you come from that place, you have bad thoughts, man, or you have like bad energy. You have like there's people that have been normal, that are nice people, that are kind people, that have went through the drug life, but there's also people that are in it. And when you don't have sleep, when you have sleep deprivation, and you know, people that do that stuff hallucinate, and you know, so it's a real problem. I don't like it. I don't like to be approached by those people about my art. I don't like to be associated with any of their doings and life, and what, you know. And this is everywhere. This is not just in the community in Butte County. This is like in all the small communities in California and in the cities, you know, like. And a part of when I speak on the marijuana thing, this is actually more dangerous and worse than any of the marijuana issues, and an epidemic, you know. Like, if people in the government really want to deal with stuff, they should be dealing with that instead of trying to harass me about shit that should be dealt with in the court, and should have been dealt with the right way to begin with. So, you know, trying to lay it all on my shoulders at the last moment before I get to make a living and become great at what I do, you know, they threw that stuff on me and tried to make a case on me, so that, you know, to prevent me from whatever becoming a problem. And that pisses me off, because, you know, that's not what makes people great, you know. And they've done it to everybody, you know, like every great thinker, every great artist, probably, you know, politicians, businessmen, all these people. But artists are very vulnerable, because we're so into of the soul world that we can't to think on these petty dealings of who has the power and who could bad talk people more is really, you know, sidestepping trying to reach greatness. And a lot of the people say, you know, you can't stop at every barking dog, but it's a problem when people put out